Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 as we inch closer to NFL kickoff and game day for the start of the 2025 football season. Eagles versus Cowboys kicks off in 36 hours and 15 minutes from right now. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning?
We're finally here. The eve of the season opener, the NFL season opener. That's what happens when you're the Super Bowl champs. Even though Nick Sirianni's trying to make everybody forget about that, it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, it's a little interesting, their approach. We'll talk a little bit about that, John. We got a great show planned today. We're going to have Mike Gill on in hour number 1 and Brandon Lee Gowan in hour number 2, our usual Wednesday suspects. So looking forward to talking to both of those guys. And you said at the eve of the NFL season, John, brings a lot of excitement and a lot, there's always uncertainty to it at the start of the year. And part of me loves that. I love the uncertainty. And I love something that you used to say is that everybody thinks they're good at the start of the year, and that's kind of what can make it a little bit more fun at times is all the bad teams don't yet know that they're as bad as they are. And I think that's the biggest advantage the Cowboys have in this game, actually, is that it's early in the season. But the eve of the game, Johnny Mac, and we are right there, brother, ready for another big run in the 2025 season.
Yeah, a lot of talk always week one about unscouted looks, unscripted things, things you don't expect to see that you see, especially with teams changing coaches, changing coordinators, which is what's going on in Dallas. So there is a little bit of that uncertainty versus, if Mike McCarthy's back, you kind of know what you're going to get.
Right.
And from the standpoint of the Cowboys, they kind of know what they're going to get. From the Eagles, even though there's a little bit of a shift from Kellen Moore to Kevin Patullo. It's the same mindset, the same grouping. So from that standpoint, that's one of the things that the Cowboys are playing up, and John Machota talked about that yesterday. You hear all the competitive advantage talk. Nick Sirianni plays it to a higher degree than most, but same things going on in Dallas. Ultimately things will settle down. It'll become about execution, which is boring for people. I get it, but that's what it'll come down to. And, the Eagles just have a bunch of good players who are better than the opposition. That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah,
basically.
I agree. What are the updates, John, from yesterday's practice? The Eagles injury report came out, looked pretty good. The only person who did not practice in yesterday's practice was Tanner McKee, which we pretty much expected at this point. Don't think he will be dressed and ready to go for the game tomorrow. But everywhere else, it looks pretty good. John, the update from yesterday's practice?
Yeah, the big one, Landon Dickerson, was back. So that and back as a full participant. So obviously he's going to try to go. It's not the knee, it's the back for what kept him out of practice. I got to figure out my days. So kept him out of practice Monday. And that was interesting because you start to think, well, is he favorite? Did he hurt his back because he's favoring his knee, and all that kind of stuff factors into it. But bottom line is he's going to try to play through it. That's pretty clear. Drew Makuba upgraded to full participation, which is good from the standpoint that, he'll be out there. Even if it's just helping on special teams. I do expect Sidney Brown to start, even though there will be no confirmation of that. Just because of the missed time. It's pretty clear they want to get to Drew Makuba eventually. How quickly they get there might be the second half. Who knows? It might be that quick if things are going poorly. But the one thing I always say about the luxury of playing time, if you're playing well, nobody's taking you off the field. So
yep, absolutely.
For Adoree Jackson and Sidney Brown specifically, because I expect both of those guys to start in the secondary, that's the luxury they have. And if they're shutting down the Dallas Cowboys offense, nobody's gonna think about putting Jacorian Bennett or Drew Makuba in there.
Yep, no doubt about it, John. And let's be real here. I know we analyze, we break down, we assess, and we look at a lot of things that happen through training camp in the preseason. But the Eagles' goal of that time of the year is to get to this game and really as long as they can, as healthy as possible. They've made that evident with the way they do it. And here we are on the eve of the regular season, and it looks like they're going to have damn near a full roster with the exception of Tanner McKee. So that's what the goal for them is, always first. And I appreciate that approach because we've had very healthy teams the last couple of years, which I think has helped us in the success that the team has had. So even the season, team is pretty healthy, John, a successful offseason for the Birds.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, the Super Bowl hangover talk. I thought it was interesting. Nick was on whatever it's called, the Jim Gray, Tom Brady show. I don't know if Tom's still on it, but he was on that and talking about. He said this throughout the offseason. He's been talking to coaches who have success, who have had success when it comes to. And again, he won't use the word repeat or even defending. He calls it sustained success, but he's tapped in to those minds and a lot of those coaches who've gone through that. And one thing he said yesterday was the idea that you're the hunted, and Gino Auriemma told him, no, you're still hunting. That's what you guys did last year. So that's the kind of stuff that he's trying to impress on the players. Now, that's easy to say. It's harder to do.
Right.
As I always say, there's a human nature aspect of feeling satisfied. But, guys who've been through it, whatever sport it is, I think it's valuable to tap into how they did it and try to replicate that as best as possible.
Yeah, I think it's a good mindset, John. I think it's a good approach by Nick. The only thing, and again, this is a personal thing. Nick can do whatever he wants. He's had his success. I'm just a guy on YouTube. He didn't have to listen to me, but just my opinion on it is, like, why does he feel the need to lie? Like he comes out, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know it was banner night." Like, Nick, what are you talking about? Like, just say, we're not buying into that. The team won't be out there. We're locked in on the game, and we'll be out there after. Like, I would, if he said that, I'm like, wow, great mindset, way to instill it. But he's got to sell me this bullshit. I didn't know it was banner night. Like, Nick, come on, it's been banner night to start the season every year for I don't know how long. That part of it bugs me a little bit, but it's just a personal gripe. Doesn't really.
Well, it's very, football guys are so entrenched in football. That's one that doesn't bother me as much. He might not know. He literally might not know. Like I could buy
John. He knows.
I could buy him not knowing that versus the nonsense he does with the players. Like that bothers me. Who's the starter? I'm not going to say the starter.
Right.
The Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, shut up. That's bullshit. So yeah, I those guys are so hyper focused on the day to day that they don't get involved with that. They don't. So that from the standpoint, the celebration. Now I thought he was going to, that was a dumb question. I'm going to, but I guess maybe it wasn't a dumb question because everybody writes about it. I don't know. It's so nonsensical. Who cares?
Yeah, right. I get your perspective, but I also get the perspective of everybody writes it.
But from the standpoint of, I thought he would say, yeah, because it was framed as going back to Super Bowl 52. I thought the easy answer, yeah, I was in Indianapolis, and move on to the next one. Like that has nothing to do with me. And now people have gone back. And again, I don't even remember that moment. I'm going to be fully discussed. I was there. I don't remember that moment. The team wasn't on the field then, evidently. That's just the timing of the game. You when you go to an NFL game, a regular season, everything's timed out pregame. Literally, they give you a clock that, this team comes out for pregame warm-up. So when everything's timed out. So when they did that, the team's off the field. And I'm just saying, you're probably right, but I'm saying it wouldn't shock me if he had no freaking idea the banner was coming down. It would not.
I don't have a problem, John, with the mindset or the approach. I think it's good. I mean, I think you're trying to instill to people in the locker room, and as you say, getting the players on board, getting the whole team bought in. It's a team sport. It takes everybody. I have no problem with that approach, and if you want to say it, or if that's going to be your take, again, I like it. But I just don't. I don't like being lied to. I'd rather him pull the Bill Belichick or the Nick Saban. That's rat poison. We're not going out for the banner.
Well, that's what he might be lying to you, and he does lie to you a lot. But it wouldn't shock me if he wasn't lying about that, because it's so not meaningful to him on that particular and in that particular moment.
Yeah, no, I hear you. John, I got to talk to you about something before we get to Mike Gill. So we're 1 day out from the game. The Eagles are I don't know if you have the record of this, when they've given contracts on the eve of the opener. That seems to be something that they've done, or at least in the week leading up to the opener. I'm wondering about Reed Blankenship's contract, because yesterday, John, it was announced that he signed with Athletes First, the new agency. And, I had somebody DM me and they're like, oh, look, contract's coming soon for Reed. And I'm like, it's either that or it's the opposite. It's either that or he's looking to maximize his earnings as best as possible, and he jumped to a new agent. How did you take that news from Reed Blankenship?
Yeah, I think, be on alert today. They do have a history. They did it with Jordan Mailata. However, when I say be on alert, I'm not telling you it's coming. I'm telling you it makes sense that,
right,
Reed changed agents. And this is the group that negotiated. This is a big time group. They've negotiated Micah's deal. David Muglietta, Todd France. I think I saw Todd at the NovaCare complex this week, but I can't be 100% sure. I would be on alert, because they do have a history of doing it. Now, at the same time, I said from the start, look, this could be a Milton Williams situation, to your point, where they were trying to extend Milton Williams before last season.
That's what I'm thinking on this. Like, Reed might have gotten an offer and is like, let me get another opinion here. I don't know. And then he changes agents.
It could be
trying to maximize. Remember, the Athletes First is probably telling them, hey, wait, play another year like you did this year. You're going to sign a $20 million a year contract,
Well, exactly. So, but they do have a history of doing it. They do want to get it done. And, it is a very important player, and it's more complicated because it's so weird. It really is. It's like, but he was an undrafted free agent. Like, at this point, who gives a shit? I don't know. Would you rather have Kenyon Green or Reed Blankenship?
Yeah, right.
But man, it's
what do you
really
mean when you say that? You mean in the sense of that people don't think he's worth what he's worth, or
yes, people don't think he's worth what he's worth, because
like the Eagles, or are you talking about externally?
Well, I think externally, number one, but I think from the Eagles standpoint, they see an opportunity to take advantage more.
Right. Get a good player cheaper.
Yeah, from a business perspective, which is, the ugly side of the business, but business is business. And if you can get them for less, get them for less. And I'm sure those guys are saying, hey, no, what you just said, look. And I brought up Cam Bynum. I'm like, well, he's better than Cam Bynum. So right now, are the Eagles going to pay him $15 million a year? I don't think so. So maybe you're right, but today's the day. If they're going to get it done, they're probably going to announce it. Or if it is done, they're probably going to announce it today. If not, obviously he's jockeying for a better offer. And, sometimes Dallas Goedert, he got extended in November 1 year. Sometimes it goes in the season, happens during the season. So it's not, again, it's a two-way street. But he knows what's at stake, and that's why, he changed agents, and he's got some of the most high-powered people in the game working for him now, which is probably not the best news for the Eagles. But
that was my take. That was immediately my take. I don't think that's good news for the Eagles.
But the assumption that just because he changed agents, it's coming today. Not the case, but
and also vice versa. Just because he changed doesn't mean it's not coming. Would you say, or
yeah, if the Eagles want to pay market value, I'm sure he'll sign today.
I don't know if they're gonna do that, John. We'll see. They got a lot of guys, man, to handle and pay on this defense. Now, I'm really curious, John. I tried to say yesterday because people and I'm fine with it because we don't have to have this conversation today, but I am interested in the conversation of how this team shifts in the next couple of years. Again, don't have to have this conversation today, but fans do not like to talk about anybody on the offense potentially not being here. And the only way I see this working, unless they just continue to let defensive guys walk out the door and keep drafting them, somebody's going to have to go. Something's going to have to shift. Did you see the spot track came out yesterday with the most expensive offenses and then the most expensive defense?
Yeah.
First on the list of offenses by a $40 million margin was the Philadelphia Eagles. It was like $250 something million. And then 31st on defensive spending was the Eagles with like, I don't know, 65 million. Now, I know largely that's circumstantial because of the rookie contracts, but how does that shift in the next couple of years? It's going to be really interesting.
Oh, it's coming. The shift is coming. That's what I tweet. And Howie's already said that. I mean, it is circumstance. It is, all their entrenched superstars are basically on offense, and they're good players on defense or on their first contracts. So it is circumstance. And when it starts with Jalen Carter, might even, you want to argue it might have started with Zach Bond. It might continue with Reed Blankenship. But it really kicks in with Jalen Carter. And potentially Nolan Smith as well after this season. And then 2 seasons, you're talking about Quinyon and Cooper. So it's changing. So get ready. Get ready. And some will take care of itself. Unfortunately, Lane has amped up the retirement talk. Maybe he just retires. Obviously, Dallas is unlikely to be here past this season. So it's coming. So be prepared for it.
It's going to be interesting to see.
And then you got to start hitting on some draft picks on that side of the football.
Yeah, right. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Johnny Mac, coming into this game, I heard Jordan Mailata talking about, this was a couple days ago, but just about game planning for the Dallas Cowboys and how it's a lot different now without game planning for Micah Parsons. They've been used to setting an entire offensive game plan to block Micah Parsons, which goes to your credit about how the Eagles have talked about that player. But now with Micah Parsons out of the building, who do you think that team is game planning for, especially on that Cowboys defense? I mean, I know Machota said they have a decent line and they got some good players. I'm not trying to, everybody has good players. It's the NFL, but they really don't have a big, splashy of a player. Obviously, you're talking about Micah Parsons, one of the best in the world. But, who do you think the Eagles have on their game plan to try and mitigate or to manage properly in this game coming into tomorrow?
Well, I do defensively. I think it starts with the 2 defensive tackles, and we'll see. I mean, they acquired Kenny Clark and obviously Osa. I'll call him their Big O. Who might be their best player on the defensive front. He's a very good player. And,
right, Osa?
What's that?
I think he got a contract.
Yeah, he's a very good player. Very good player. And he's put, Tyler Steen is the one position you look at on offense and you say you have some question marks about. Well, he's going to get tested. Week 1 because he's going to be going against those guys a lot of the time. So I think from an Eagle standpoint, it probably starts there. And then, we'll see if Diggs is out there. I thought it was interesting. John talked about the injuries. Seemed very unlikely that Tyler Guyton was going to play at left tackle. Diggs, he seemed to think has a shot. Deron Bland, another guy's gotten an extension since they let Mike walk. Now they signed their fullback to an extension. Jerry's trying to clean it up. So, you do have to be wary about those guys because they're playmakers, and you've seen them bite Jalen Hurts in the past when the Cowboys were playing better. But they also take chances, so you have an opportunity to hit them on double moves and things like that. But I would say you have to be very careful because those guys are playmakers, sort of like cornerback versions of CJ Gardner. They'll make plays if you allow them to. So defensively, I think it starts there. But the interior is now their strength. And they're better, to John's point, they are better on the defensive front than people think without Micah. But you don't have that. Like, I'd rather have opposite, after Nolan Smith, I'd rather have their 4 guys than what the Eagles have. to the point of everybody's got good players. I'd rather have Fowler, Sam Williams, Marshawn Nealon, Donovan Ezeraku than what the Eagles are rolling out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not that hard to say considering we got Uche and Ojulari, and I like Jalix, but I get where you're coming from that point. John, real quick before we get to Mike Gill, he's in the green room. Going to get to Mike Gill in just a second here. Other side of the ball, is it as simple as too high, make them beat you?
I would play a lot of too high or cover 3, and I think Vic will. It's just a matter if he goes what zone he prefers, but and a lot of his is a little bit more complicated than the traditional. Like he's usually playing quarters. He's usually playing one. He might play cover 2 on one side. He might play something else on the other side. So he's a little bit more complicated, but he might want to settle it down a little bit because of the new parts, at least early in the season. But we'll see how he shakes it out. But yeah, if you look at it, can the Cowboys offensive line hold up? That's a big question mark. And if they can the Eagles defensive backfield deal with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Cavante Turpin? Yeah, they got better players than the Eagles fans realize, I will say. But, they're weak on the offensive line. And they lost one of the 2 or 3 best pass rushers in the world who the Eagles, yeah, they went to extreme lengths.
So yesterday, John, just to update on it, yesterday, Tyler Guyton was a full participant in practice. Now, I don't know if that means he's going to play or not, but he was a full participant yesterday.
Yeah, John, he was the day before, and that's why I asked John Machota. I asked him that specific question. He does not think he's going to play, which is interesting to me because usually if you're a full participant, you're going to play. But, if you remember, very early in training camp, there was reports that he tore his ACL, which are rare, and it came back when they did the MRI. He didn't tear his ACL. It was some kind of fracture, bone fracture, and then the thought was he was going to be out, 4 to 6 weeks and still be out sometime during the regular season. All of a sudden, he shows up as full participant. So, I'm going to lean on John Machota, and he doesn't think he's going to play. So, Nate Thomas is the backup, and that's pretty big dip, I would say. Yeah. But the Eagles don't have Josh Sweat over there to take advantage of that. So Josh used to beat up on young players who didn't play.
Well, Jalix Hunt, it's your opportunity, young man. Let's see what he can do with it. Good stuff there. I do think a sleeper guy to watch in this game is Cavante Turpin because I feel fine about CD. If he's in the slot or the outside, you got Cooper Quignon. If you have George Pickens, presumably, hopefully you can have somebody good on him. Might be a matchup there to watch as well. But then you have sneaky, speedy Cavante Turpin. Could they use him more? And Machota talked about that as well. So he's a guy to watch as well in this game. Good stuff.
And Jalen Tolbert can play too. They're pretty good at receiver.
They got some guy, and look, that can throw the ball. So we'll see what they end up doing, but should be good. We are just under now 12 hours, everybody. 8:20 is the kickoff tomorrow. 36 hours.
Oh, I was going to hurry up.
No, yeah. It's 8:28 and 8:20 tomorrow night. All right, so it's